Hey folks, welcome to Seawaywhiskywire. Tonight on the bar, we've got the Islay Mist 8-year-old blended Scotch Whisky. Stay tuned. Well, hey folks, thanks for coming back after the intro. I'm Tyler, and tonight on Seawaywhiskywire, I'm going to kickstart a series of reviews on budget blends. And one of the budget blends that I have on the bar and usually keep on the bar that I wanted to share with you guys tonight is the Islay Mist 8-year-old blended Scotch Whisky. But before we get into the overview and some of the lore behind Islay Mist, if you have yourself some Islay Mist, maybe you got yourself something else in the budget blend category, you want to pour yourself a dram and drink along with me, please do so. I encourage it. It makes life a heck of a lot better for you guys on the other end. And I enjoy you guys drinking along with me, especially when it's good blended Scotch whiskey. So let me give you guys a little background on the Islay Mist for those of you who aren't too familiar with it. So Islay Mist is a blended Scotch whiskey that combines the bold, smoky characters of Islay malts, primarily from the renowned Laphroaig distillery located on the island of Islay, with the softer side and smoother tones of Speyside and Highland grain whiskies. And it was originally created back in 1927 to mark the 21st birthday of the son of the Lord of the Isles. And Islay Mist was crafted to temper that intense peatiness of Islay whiskies, making it more approachable while retaining all of its island character. And the result was a well-balanced whiskey with its flavor profile and smoothness, making it an excellent choice for those who are new to peat whiskey, as well as a rewarding dram for seasoned Scotch lovers and more nuanced Islay experience seekers. And it also is excellent in cocktails. Islay Mist is praised for offering an authentic yet mellow introduction to the world of smoky Scotch whiskey. And you know what, guys, I think that's kind of be the story we tell a little bit today when we're going through this. But before we kind of go right to the findings at the end here, let me get into the overview and the specs on this bottle, and then we'll go through the notes and nose it and taste it, and I'll give you my my final thoughts and everything like that on it. So what are we dealing with here? So we've got Islay Mist. Number one comes in with, it's a blended Scotch whiskey, so you've got a mix of malts and a mix of grain whiskey in here. 40% ABV. At that, I'm guessing that it is chill filtered and there is color added. And again, it's a combination of Highland malts and lowland grain whiskey, and then you've got that Laphroaig Islay malt in here, which really gives it that characteristic. No idea of the portions. They really don't give you too much information on the website. If anybody knows or anyone has an inkling of what the portions are, of how much Laphroaig is in this versus other Speyside distilleries and kind of maybe where the grain whiskeys come from, feel free to stick that down in the comments. But yeah, it's got a pretty decent story behind it there. And with that, let's pop into the presentation here and have a look at it here. So I think that the presentation on this bottle of whiskey is pretty cool. So number one, you get a nice age stamp on there, and it's a decent looking bottle, good story again, and it's budget friendly. We're going to get into that at the end there, but I mean, you got the seal of the Lord of Islay right here, 8 years old, an unmistakable yet gentle Islay smokiness with a complex fusion of sweet malts, mellow oakiness, and Islay sea breeze. We'll let we'll sample it here and let the nose and the palate be the judge of that. But let's hop into the pour here. Little twist top, which I love corks and I'm not against twist tops, but they're just definitely more convenient. They less bougie, I guess, if you want to say something, but I have no gripes about it. And you can see I'm working my way through this bottle pretty good. This is actually probably my third or fourth bottle of Islay Mist. I do keep it on the bar. Without spoiling too much into it, let's take a look at the color, and we'll go in for a closer look for the Islay Mist 8-year-old blended Scotch whiskey. So we're going close there. Obviously, we've got color added to this, but still worth having a look at it. And for saying that there is color added there, it's a pretty pale gold. Obviously, being a blend, it's economical. They're probably not using the greatest casks. They're probably using some pretty tired casks, some ex-bourbon in there. They don't mention anything about sherry, but they're probably just putting the color in there to bring it up and give it some consistency. But yeah, nice pale gold to it there. All right, let's kick on to the nose. I usually let this rest a little bit more, but I think it's okay to go ahead and kick into it. Let's hop on the nose of the Islay Mist 8-year-old blended Scotch whiskey and see what we can get out of the nose. Here we go. So nose off the get-go. Number one, not abrasive. There's no real like kind of alcohol burn or none of that from like sometimes you get that off of grain whiskey, but there is a bit of what I would call some bitterness on the nose, and it's kind of near the back. And really, I think it's probably just because of the grain whiskey that's being used in here. But yeah, at 8 years of age, it's probably kind of rounded itself out. Right at the get-go in the hop, you think, oh, you'd be like, oh man, I got some peanut. No, it's in there, but we'll get to it. So number one, I'm getting some honey and lemon, and it's a honey and lemon of like a cough drop, like a Hall's cough drop that you would get. It's on there, and then right behind that, I get a tiny touch of green apple, just a little bit. It's not so super like orchard fruity, and then I get the light peat, and the light peat is more of an ash peat. It's reminiscent of Laphroaig, but I think if I did this blind, I wouldn't pick it out as Laphroaig, the style of peat anyways. And then a touch of coastal brine, a little bit of, I don't want to say sea spray, more maybe saline, or like just like a saltiness in the air. Yeah, it's not very offensive. It has a little bit of bitterness at the end there, but it's not a very offensive nose, and not a whole lot of complexity in it. But again, being a budget blend, it's got a couple of different layers to it, which I can appreciate. But you know what? Let's kick into the palate and the taste and see what we can get out of the Islay Mist 8-year-old blended Scotch whiskey. So hopefully you got something good in your glass, or hopefully you got something, blended Scotch that you want to drink along with me. So slanja to your health, and let's dive into it. Took a pretty small sip there, just to ease my way into it. Mouthfeel pretty light, pretty what I would expect out of a 40% budget blended Scotch. It's got some bit to it there as far as the flavor profiles are, like it hangs on there, but the liquid's very thin. But again, no alcohol burn when you're taking it in. It's it's pretty much aged out of it, I would say, with that 8-year-old age stamp, and then it's a fairly thin liquid. Right off the get-go, palate matches the nose pretty close. I'm getting some lemons, I'm getting some limes. They're more sour lemon limes than like a fresh one, or like a juice of a lemon, and the lime is kind of more bitter note to it. There is apple in there. It is green apple. It's fairly fleeting, nothing too crazy as far as hanging on. And then I'm getting a little bit of honey in there too. And then we get into the peat. I'm gonna go for one more sip just to kind of refresh my palate. Take a bigger sip this time. Really let it move around my mouth there, really work my tongue into it, just to try and pick out some more flavors. So after that honey and lemon, lime, apple, a little bit of honey, you're getting into that light medicinal peat. More reminiscent of Laphroaig than the nose is, but it's still kind of not, Laphroaig 10, Laphroaig quarter cask, Laphroaig sherry cask. It's not that distinctive character of Laphroaig smoke. If you're looking for Laphroaig smoke, go out and get yourself a Laphroaig single malt. This is, they're using it. They specify right on the packaging here that Laphroaig is part of the blend, but I'm not sure what the quality is. I'm not sure what the age is for the Laphroaig. It's obviously just probably Laphroaig whiskey or Laphroaig distillate. I don't really know, but it's not distinctively Laphroaig in this case, and maybe that's the casking and whatnot, but it's not there. There's a bit of sour and bitterness at the end. That's very much attributed, or very common for like grain whiskey in general, I find. And then at the end, there's a slight bit of burnt sugar, not caramel and not off-putting, but very much like the top layer of a creme brulee. It's that burnt, crispy sugar, and then this little bit of pepper at the end. But that's about it. And I mean, again, it's just a nice, smooth, easygoing, easy sipper. Nothing too egregious, nothing too aggressive. The bitterness, is it off-putting? It's not. It doesn't turn me on like a lot of other scotches would, or like single malts would. But you know what? For a budget blend, I don't think it necessarily has to. And it's something that is very much a simple character of these blended whiskeys. With that, let's hop into the finish, and I'm going to go in for one more sip. And there's some beating going on there on the side, not too much for legs. Again, it wasn't a very thick liquid, but I'll go in for one more sip and give you guys my thoughts on the finish, and then we'll get into the final notes. All I'm not trying to sound like a whiskey snob, guys. If I had to put this into a category, short, simple, and easy. And I mean, boom, boom, boom. It literally is like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think there's a spot for this. You know, I think it's one of these things. It's a great intro to peat. If you're just getting into peat and you're not really too sure if you like it, or you know you're worried about going into an Ardbeg or a Laphroaig or a Kilhoman or something like that, a Lagavulin even. Like if you're too worried, you don't want to spend the big price tag and then get into peat and you go, no, I'm not really. You want a nice easy transition into peat. I think this is a place to go. Again, is it distinctively Laphroaig? No. Is it Islay peat? Yes, and it does have that Islay peat character in the medicinal and the ashy notes and the campfire kind of notes to it there, but it is definitely, I don't know what the ppm level is on this, but I mean, it's you got to remember, it's the ppm level on that malt that's into the blend, so it's even less than that. Plus, you've got it dialed down to a 40% ABV, which is, bringing it down. There is a character of peat in there. Unmistakably, it's on the nose, it's on the palate, but it is I think it would be a great entry if you're thinking about getting into peat, for sure. And we'll get into the value piece too of why this is important. But I mean, that might be a great gateway into peat for yourself or someone you know. And the other thing I would say is just it's decent in cocktails. This makes a hell of a rusty nail, and I've had it in a couple other cocktails, but as a rusty nail cocktail, you don't always want to put a good quality single malt into a rusty nail, and this is something to get because you're getting those honey notes in there, you're getting that lemon, and you're getting that little bit of peat, which I think just elevates the rusty nail for sure. All right, those are my notes on the finish. Let's get into the value proposition and see where we can land with this one here. So from a budget blend standpoint, I can get this every day at the LCBO for under $40. I think that under $40, that's pretty budget friendly. And again, easy sipper, intro to peat, great mixer. Worth checking out if you're interested. It's one that I always kind of keep stocked on my shelf for mixers. And I've had it neat a couple times where it's a hot day and you want a little bit of Islay, but you just don't want a big booming Islay, which is an everyday for me, obviously, guys. I like my peat. But if you're just looking for something easy and you want something to want to share with a friend and they want to try something like that, I think it's good to have in your bar for something like that. Or again, if you're interested in getting into peat and you don't want to break the bank, look no further than the Islay Mist 8-year-old blended Scotch whiskey. There you go, guys. There's my review of the Islay Mist 8-year-old blended Scotch whiskey. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. If you like what we're doing here at Seawaywhiskywire, you guys know that drill. Like and subscribe down below. And hey, don't forget to check me out on Instagram at Seawaywhiskywire for more content. And if you guys are still hanging around this long in the video, listen to me talk about a budget blend that's been on my bar for a couple of years now. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Love coming down to the basement after a hard day's work and having a little dram of an old friend of mine here with the Islay Mist 8-year-old. And, sharing it with you guys in the hopes that maybe you'll check it out as well. So yeah, I'll leave you guys with that. Take care, all the best, and I'll see you around, guys. Bye for now.